Halo 5 Guardians came out with a ton of hype surrounding it in 2015. This video is a review of Halo 5's campaign from the perspective of somebody who has never played it in the year 2021. This video also serves as my last campaign review before the release of Halo Infinite. Same as the other videos in this series, there will be minor spoilers throughout. Now with that all out of the way, kick back, relax, and enjoy. After the events of Halo 4, Master Chief is found regrouped with his longtime allies of Blue Team, who I had no idea even existed until this game. We are also introduced to Team Osiris, led by Spartan Locke and his crew of Spartan 4s. While both teams are actively engaged on the front lines of battle against the Prometheans and Covenant, Cortana emerges from the shadows, setting in motion a series of events starting with Master Chief's search for her. Blue Team goes with him while being classified as absent without leave. Team Osiris is sent after Blue Team with the objective of capturing Master Chief and bringing him back to Dr. Halsey. Most of the game centers around Locke and Team Osiris searching for Chief, while fighting plenty of Promethean and Covenant forces along the way. I think most of the new characters on both teams add a new layer of intriguing interactions among personalities. Although the unique relationship between Master Chief and Cortana isn't replaced here, these new relationships add a fresh dynamic. I personally found Spartan Locke to be a more relatable and humanized version of Master Chief. I can't say I was rooting for one team over another, but I liked both of them. Similar to Locke, the rest of Team Osiris is very relatable and likable. In contrast, Blue Team is quite a bit less expressive, much like their leader, while having their own charm as badass super soldier comrades. As much as I like getting to know Locke and his crew, I couldn't help but feel that Master Chief is sorely absent for most of the game's runtime. And when I say sorely absent, I mean like at least 75% of your playtimes with Locke, which doesn't seem right for a game with Master Chief on the cover of it. I think 343 should have either made this a spin-off title all about Team Osiris with maybe a Master Chief cameo of some sort, or just split the game much more evenly between the two. Also missing was the massive and epic confrontation that the first act of the game led me to believe was inevitable. The story does do a fantastic job of setting up conflicts and characters during the first half of the game, but is let down by its messy execution during the remaining half. In addition, I struggle to understand several characters' motivations and why they are doing what they're doing. The ending here is a bit of a cliffhanger similar to Halo 2, but without an epically quotable closing sequence. I enjoyed Halo 5 Guardians' story, but do feel it missed the mark in regards to what it could have been. Halo 5 somewhat struggles in the story department, but excels in regards to the presentation. Being the only title in the franchise to hit the Xbox One, Halo 5 Guardians is a stellar looking game to say the least. It's refreshing to see with such detail assets both close up and from a distance. Weapons and vehicles look as realistic as ever here. My only real complaint visually is how intrusive the visor is in my point of view. As I went over in my Halo 3 review, I get it. The visor is supposed to add a more immersive experience, but I personally don't really like all the non-useful clutter. It would have been nice if there was at least an option to turn it off. I may be in the minority here, but I do think most players can agree the music is some of the best to date. Halo 5 does a better job over 4 of finding a nice middle ground between new and original scores with some classic themes worked in. The improved presentation allows players to experience even more of their beloved Halo universe. Much like the previous entries, there is a ton of varieties in climates and biomes. My personal favorite would have to be Sangheili, especially with all the history scattered throughout the gorgeous and mysterious desert planet. When it comes to gameplay, the first thing I noticed immediately was the faster paced combat. Movement is definitely accelerated here, as well as the introduction of parkour. Master Chief and Spartan Locke can run, jump, climb up and off of ledges, as well as shoulder bashing through select areas and enemies. I do miss some of the special abilities found in the last few games, especially the jetpack. But this new movement system is definitely gratifying, with each level putting in extra emphasis on verticality. Shootouts can also be a lot of fun when taking into consideration this extra dimension. While firearms continue to hold little in terms of ammunition, there are a lot more guns and weapons scattered throughout compared to the last title. I do have to say, I am still disappointed there is no option for dual wielding. Not essential, but the option to dual sling really does add an extra layer of depth in the combat. The weapon selection is similar to last time with a mixture of UNSC, Covenant, and Forerunner tech. There are a few new additions in the form of splinter turrets and Hydra launchers. Equally as essential to the Halo experience, there are vehicles, and plenty of them. Most of the expected return here from older classics like the Warthog and Ghost, as well as some of the newer staples in the form of the Mantis. Completely new to Halo, the Wasp feels quite similar to Hornets from Halo 3, which I guess would make sense due to the names. For the most part, the vehicles are just as satisfying as before. The main attraction here, however, is the addition of teams. Chief is always accompanied by Blue Team, while Locke with Osiris. Similar to previous Halo entries, your team fights alongside you like soldiers or the Arbiter in 3, however they add an extra layer of support when in combat. You can give your team basic commands like move up and attack a specific enemy. A part of me highly enjoyed this perception of really being a member of a team, but in all honesty, the AI is just a little too dumb to really pull this off 100%. I still enjoyed the extra company during battle, but I often relegated my fellow comrades to being glorified wingmen in those times where I bit off more than I could chew, because I really couldn't count on them to do anything else. Maybe this is supposed to add to the player's feeling of importance, but for me it was more like, hey Buck, I thought I just saw you get killed twice, but here you are. Go distract that knight for me, why don't ya? Prometheans are tweaked here, but manage to be just as irritating as before, especially these new knights. A lot of my deaths to these new knights kind of felt cheap due to their quick speed ability to absorb massive amounts of damage and deliver one-hit kills. Hunters can definitely be challenging at times, but when they kill me, it feels like it was just because I wasn't good enough, unlike with knights, where I often felt like there was an element of randomness involved. Luckily, the Covenant still remains a fun group of enemies to engage with. Many of the existing Covenant forces are now equipped with jetpacks, adding to the aforementioned sense of true verticality. One more thing I do want to mention is the final boss fights are meh. Hard and repetitive does not equal fun, at least for me. 343 still struggles to find the perfect balance of gameplay and story found in the Bungie titles of past. However, Halo 5 Guardians still has a lot to offer players. With some of the best visuals to date, faster paced combat, and the new utilization of teams, Halo 5 is a fun time for almost anybody. 7.5. Halo 5 Guardians has a weaker story when compared to 4, but makes up with the better overall gameplay. I do look forward to seeing if 343 is able to find the balance they've been missing with Infinite, but until then, feel free to leave me a like and subscribe if you want to support me and the channel. I want to thank you all for watching, and until next time, see ya!